Okay, uh, going to look at paradise. There are many people that wonder about paradise, what it is and where it is. And the Bible mentions paradise three times. One is in Luke chapter 23, and I'm going to read from 39 to 43. 43 is where it mentions paradise. But it said, and talking to the two others and Christ were on the cross at this time. And one of the malefactors, verse 39, which were hanged, railed on him, saying, if thou be Christ, save thyself and us. But the other answering rebuked him, saying, dost not thou fear God, seeing thou art in the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the reward of our deeds. But this man had done nothing amiss. And he said unto Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. And Jesus said unto him, verily I say unto thee, today thou shalt be with me in paradise. So verse 43 is a key verse that mentions paradise, and we will have more to say about that later. But what is paradise that's mentioned in verse 43? It is a place of delight. Heaven is called paradise three times in this section I just read, Luke 23 verse 43, and 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 4, and Revelation chapter 2 verse 7. So today, when we die, our bodies goes to the grave, and our soul and spirit go to heaven or hell, depending on whether we've accepted Christ when we die. Hebrews chapter 9 verse 27 tells us that judgment comes at death. However, in the Old Testament, it was different. Christ had not yet paid for anyone's sin. So Old Testament saints that died could not go to heaven, but hell was the place for the souls of the dead, both of those that were righteous and those that were wicked. In the New Testament, hell is Sheol is translated as Hades. Even in the Old Testament, where believers went to Sheol, it is mentioned that they would not stay there. So look at Psalm 16, verses 9 through 10, and it tells us that. It says, therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoices, and my flesh also rests in hope. For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. So even though the Old Testament saints went to hell, it is clear that they will not stay there, but unbelievers will. So in the New Testament, we are shown a picture of the afterlife in Luke chapter 16, beginning with verse 19, I think, down to 31. And I'll read that for you. And it shows us a good picture. Some claim that this is a parable, but it isn't a parable because it mentions the proper names of the individuals. And so verse 19, there was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died, and he was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. Abraham's bosom, that's the paradise side of hell. And we'll see that shortly. And it says, the rich man in hell lift up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water, and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest the good things, and likewise Lazarus the evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. And besides all of this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed. In other words, in hell. This rich man is talking from the flames of hell. Abraham's bosom is the paradise side of hell. There's no flames there. It's nice on that side. And so they that which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. Then he said, I pray thee therefore, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house. For I have 5 brethren, and that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Abraham saith unto him, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went into them from the dead, they will repent. And he said unto him, If they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. And that's even more true today. You can see that all over the country today. So here in verse 26, it says, and besides all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. And so this was a gulf separating those in the fire and those in paradise. When the rich man was buried, he lifted up his eyes, being in torment. That was in verse 23. And he seen Lazarus afar off in the bosom of Abraham. This was far off because of the gulf that was flames that separated the gulf of flames on the hell side from the paradise side. And so Sheol in the Old Testament had 2 compartments, one for the righteous and one for the wicked. And the righteous who died prior to Christ dwelt with Abraham on the paradise side. And some Christians claim that the soul of Jesus went to heaven after his death, but that's not true. The Bible doesn't say that. But remember that Jesus did tell the thief that today you will be with me in paradise. That was in verse 43. And so when the thief and Jesus died, their soul went to the paradise side of hell, which is a place of comfort and rest, which Jesus called paradise in Luke 23:43. So when Jesus went into the paradise side of hell, what happened? He liberated Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, David, John the Baptist, and all of the other Old Testament saints, and ransomed them from hell. And then when Jesus is resurrected and ascends to heaven, he brings the ransomed dead, that's all the Old Testament saints, with him, so that there is no longer a paradise near the place of torment, but it is now up in the 3rd heaven where God dwells. And so the body of all believers after the ascension of Christ, and that's for you and I today, go to the grave, and their soul goes to heaven instead of hell. Paradise is now in heaven. And then Revelation 2:7 tells us, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God. And I thank you for listening.